Schwarzenegger tells lawmakers to fix the state budget or risk the end of the California dream. And sentimental journey, Nancy Reagan here at the White House with the new president 5 years after her husband's death. Nightly News begins now.
This is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams, reporting tonight from Washington.
Good evening from the East Room of the White House, and this is a first, the first ever network evening newscast to originate from this historic room. We are here to raise the curtain later this evening on our extraordinary look inside this White House. A 1-hour-long primetime special tonight and again tomorrow night, revealing what we saw during our day of unprecedented access to the president, his West Wing staff, and the First Lady. In fact, we sat down with the president for a second formal interview earlier today. We'll have more on all of it a bit later on in the broadcast tonight. First this evening, we must begin with a missing commercial jetliner and a discovery today in the Atlantic Ocean of the first pieces of the wreckage of an Air France Airbus that was en route to Paris from Rio with over 200 people on board, all now presumed dead. Our own Lester Holt is in Paris tonight with more on this story. Lester, good evening.
Brian, good evening to you. Officials late today confirmed those pieces did in fact come from the French jetliner. Finding that debris tells them, confirms where the plane came down. That was one of the troubling questions, but there's a bigger question. What caused it to crash? And searchers believe the answer may lie at the end of a very deep ocean. After scouring the open water since Monday, Brazilian Air Force pilots found the first signs of the plane in 2 debris fields 35 miles apart. In the debris, he says, an airplane seat, small white pieces, an orange buoy, but no bodies or survivors. And there are still no signs of the black boxes like these, which could explain the tragic mystery. Even once located, the deep trenches of the mid-Atlantic could make recovery difficult.
It may cause a lot of difficulties in just hearing the black boxes and then fetching the black boxes.
According to Air France, Flight 447 departed the gate in Rio de Janeiro at 6:03 Eastern Time. Its final radio contact was at 9:33. Roughly 45 minutes later, at 10:14, the plane's computers generated an outburst of automated messages reporting system failures. The 2 areas of debris found today were roughly along the planned flight route, some 410 miles from the Brazilian island of Fernando de Noronha. Pilots Union Vice President and Air France pilot Cedric Magnez lost 2 friends in the crash.
What is quite frightening for us pilots is that we don't know what happened.
A line of severe thunderstorms stood in Flight 447's path on Sunday night. Magnez, who has flown A330s on the same route, says no pilot would fly into an active thunderstorm.
In my career, I have sometimes flown like 200 nautical miles offset of a thunderstorm area.
Today, there were moments of silence for victims at the French Open and French Parliament. The victims of Flight 447 include Americans Michael and Ann Harris, who moved to Brazil last summer from the Houston area.
They were both adorable people. They were loving and funny.
Also on board, 3 young Irish doctors returning from a Brazilian holiday. One of them, Enya Walls, danced on Broadway in the acclaimed performance Riverdance.
Ethna is such a beautiful, beautiful person. She has the most wonderfulest personality.
Tonight, American aircraft are on scene ready to join the search, and U.S. military satellites are trained on the area looking for more clues, as hope for the victims has all but run out.
We have to keep the hope that someone survived, but we don't think it's very probable.
Tomorrow, prayers will be offered for the passengers and crew of Flight 447 at Paris's famed Cathedral of Notre Dame. And there is a race against time here. Those black boxes send an emergency signal to help searchers locate them, but they only will go for another 30 days or so before they will go silent. So, Brian, as one pilot told me, if we don't find those black boxes, it is possible we'll never know what happened to this airplane.
All right, Lester Holt in Paris on our lead story tonight. Lester, thanks. And back here at the White House, the president's helicopter lifting off from here tonight on the first leg of the most important trip of his presidency thus far. He will mark the D-Day anniversary, among other things, and he will fulfill a promise to make a speech to the Muslim world. The president flies from Washington to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, then on to the speech at Cairo University. He makes 2 more stops in Germany and France for the D-Day events before returning to the U.S. on Sunday. When I spoke with him today, I asked him about the importance of this particular speech. You're about to give a speech to the Muslim world, really the tentpole of this big trip you're embarking on. It's been said it's a speech that your predecessor perhaps could not have given constitutionally, given who he is, and could not have given because the attack came on his watch. Other than your personal style, what has changed to enable you to give this address?
Well, I'm not sure that it's true that President Bush couldn't have given a speech in the Muslim world. I think that a U.S. president, even where there's a lot of tension in various parts of the world, is always received as a critical figure in world economics and politics, and people want to know what they have to say. So I wouldn't suggest that somehow I'm uniquely positioned to deliver this speech. And I also don't want to load up too many expectations on this speech. After all, one speech is not going to transform very real policy differences and some very difficult issues surrounding the Middle East and the relationship between Islam and the West. But I am confident that we're in a moment where in Islamic countries, I think there's a recognition that the path of extremism is not actually going to deliver a better life for people. I think there's a recognition that simply being anti-American is not going to solve their problems. The steps we're taking now to leave Iraq takes that issue and diffuses it a little bit. And the question then is, how do we now go forward with an honest, serious relationship based on mutual respect and mutual interest? And so what I hope will happen as a consequence of this speech is people will have a better sense of how America views its relationship to the broader world and to Islam. I do hope that we can start opening a dialogue that'll be more constructive moving forward.
A part of our conversation with the president here at the White House earlier today. Meanwhile, the president's Supreme Court nominee was looking for support on Capitol Hill today, addressing conservative criticism largely of her remarks, suggesting that a Latina judge might reach a better conclusion than a white male. Sonia Sotomayor told Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Patrick Leahy what she meant was that your life experience shapes who you are. But Senator Leahy said she made it clear that ultimately and completely, as he put it, as a judge, you follow the law. The suspect in the fatal shooting of a well-known Wichita doctor who performed late-term abortions had his day in court today. NBC's Janet Shamlian has more on the portrait that is emerging of the man now charged with murder.
Are you Mr. Roeder?
Yes.
Scott Roeder, the man police say shot Dr. George Tiller in his church on Sunday, appeared by video in a Wichita court today, where he was formally charged with first-degree murder.
I will say that the state has filed a charge of premeditated, unlawful killing of another human being, George Tiller.
Fulton said Roeder's case doesn't meet Kansas legal standards for the death penalty. The charge, which carries a maximum of life in prison, came as more details emerged about Roeder's anti-abortion activities. His ex-wife, who didn't want her face shown, says his views became more radical over time.
I knew he was really supportive of people who had bombed abortion clinics and who had shot them up and who had killed other abortionists. I knew he felt an eye for an eye, but I never thought he'd actually do it.
In 1996, Roeder was convicted of having bomb-making materials in his car, though the search was ruled illegal and the verdict overturned. Dr. Tiller's clinic, one of the few in the nation that perform late-term abortions, was the frequent target of criticism and attacks. The president of the National Organization for Women says Tiller's slaying should prompt the government to act.
We call this domestic terrorism for a reason, because it terrorizes abortion providers, people who work at the clinics, and women who might use the clinics. That's the purpose of this kind of terrorism.
Because of Dr. Tiller's clinic, conservative Wichita has long had a role in the abortion debate. The clinic is closed now, and Tiller's family says there is no plan yet to reopen it. With a past full of controversy, its future now uncertain. Janet Shamlian, NBC News, Wichita.
And in Little Rock, Arkansas today, a suspect who was already being watched by the FBI pleaded not guilty to a murder charge in yesterday's shooting at an Army recruiting center. But prosecutors say Abdul Hakim Muhammad, a converted Muslim, admitted shooting 23-year-old Private William Long for political and religious reasons. Another soldier was wounded. Investigators are looking at whether Muhammad, who recently was in Yemen and Somalia, was inspired by others perhaps to carry out the attack. This was the day after the worst day in the 100-year history of General Motors. GM, as we knew it, is no more. They've filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The president told me again today he feels good about GM's future, and the company is trying to make its potential customers feel the same way. Our report tonight from CNBC's Phil LeBeau.
Down but not out. General Motors is rebuilding its image as a company ready for a fresh start.
We can't forget how important these details are.
Chief designer Ed Welburn is pointing to new models in the GM pipeline.
You know, the cars in the room where I am right now here at the Design Center are strong, they're bold, they're very creative, and they're fun vehicles.
After months of criticism on Capitol Hill, scrutiny on Wall Street, and winding up in bankruptcy court, GM needs a makeover.
We're witnessing the rebirth of the American car.
Starting with a new image campaign that will begin airing tomorrow.
Leaner, greener, faster, smarter. This is not about going out of business. This is about getting down to business.
One product line going away, Hummer, which GM is in advanced talks to sell to a Chinese firm, ending a volatile run where Hummers went from being so hot buyers paid thousands over sticker price to recent years where skyrocketing gas prices killed demand for the monster SUVs.
There are no second chances. We won't need one.
GM execs are stealing a page out of Chrysler's bailout book under Lee Iacocca in the 1970s, where the legendary CEO was straightforward in asking Americans to give his company another shot.
The new Chrysler Corporation is in business to stay.
If there's another Iacocca somewhere hiding in the halls of General Motors, it's time to bring him out. Americans absolutely love pulling for the underdog. It's the Rocky Balboa effect.
An image tune-up for a company that's lost its way after 100 years of driving America.
With only them building what the consumer wants, that will bring up the value of the vehicles.
For the immediate future, it's all about convincing people that better days lie ahead. If General Motors can do that, analysts believe the automaker has a good shot at stabilizing sales and ultimately becoming profitable again. Brian?
Phil LeBeau at CNBC Global Headquarters tonight. Phil, thanks. And on Wall Street in New York today, it was pretty quiet after yesterday's big rally. The Dow finished the day up just over 19 points. When we continue here on a Tuesday evening, California at a critical stage, and a warning from the governor about a way of life that is now at stake. And later, we're not the only guests at the White House today. There was a bittersweet homecoming here today. Another day of deepening economic crisis in California, with the governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, telling state legislators there today that the day of reckoning is here, and if they want to keep the state from running out of money completely, they need to act right now. NBC's George Lewis reports from Sacramento.
As the Golden State drowns in red ink, a $24 billion budget deficit, a dire warning from the governor.
Our wallet is empty, our bank is closed, and our credit is dried up.
And if the legislature doesn't slash the budget now, he said, the state will go insolvent.
We have 14 days to act, or California is at risk of running out of cash.
Let's take a listen to you.
Among the governor's proposed cuts, eliminating or curtailing health programs like this state-funded medical clinic that serves about 5,000 poor people in Laguna Beach.
I'm in shock. I can't believe this is happening. I'm scared for patients. I'm scared for the health of California.
No more cuts! As teachers and state workers who will be laid off protest daily, An ugly battle is shaping up at the state capitol. Democrats don't want to slash the budget as deeply as the governor proposes, saying the state must find new sources of revenue, while Republicans are saying absolutely no new taxes. And under California law, raising taxes takes a 2/3 vote of the legislature.
We're not interested in raising taxes again on the people of California. That would be a fatal blow to the economy and probably be a very devastating blow to millions of California families.
Our fiscal ship is sinking, and these proposals throw women and children off the lifeboat first. And that is simply not acceptable in the world's 8th largest economy.
In the past, the two sides have gridlocked over the budget. That is not an option now because the state is out of money and running out of time. The new budget has to be passed in the next 2 weeks. George Lewis, NBC News, Sacramento, California.
We are back from the East Room at the White House, and when Nightly News continues in just a moment, the special guest and former resident here at the White House today.
Well,
we're back from the White House. We wanted to take a moment to say a quick word about where we are, because this is an extraordinary backdrop for a newscast. The East Room at the White House, where we have set up shop here tonight, has been the scene of great happiness and great sadness. This is where, after all, the bodies of Presidents Lincoln and Kennedy were brought after they were assassinated almost 100 years apart. It's been the scene of 7 different White House weddings. John and Abigail Adams hung their laundry to dry in this room when they first moved into the White House. It's where LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act. And this White House was today the scene of a sentimental homecoming for a woman who lived here for 8 years with her husband while he was president. Nancy Reagan was here today for the signing of something special called the Ronald Reagan Centennial Commission Act. Our own Andrea Mitchell is here with us with more on Mrs. Reagan's day. Andrea, this was a poignant moment here today.
It was very poignant because Nancy Reagan had a bad fall just several months ago. She has recovered, and she was back today at an old address for the first time since President Obama has been elected to meet the new resident. Nancy Reagan, frail, a month shy of her 88th birthday, leaning on the young president she met for the first time today.
All set? Okay.
2 decades after she and her husband left Washington, she was back as the 44th president prepared to honor the 40th.
President Reagan helped as much as any president to restore a sense of optimism in our country, a spirit that transcended politics.
She has said she didn't vote for Barack Obama. After all, she's a Republican and a long-standing friend of John McCain's. But she told Vanity Fair in the July issue, Obama's campaign was the best she's ever known.
Ms. Reagan, let's go sign this bill.
Okay.
Okay.
Today made up for some earlier awkwardness. Right after the election, the president-elect joked about Mrs. Reagan's past use of an astrologer.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into a Nancy Reagan thing about doing any seances.
He called to apologize the same day.
She was annoyed, I think a little more hurt, because as she said, everything he's done has been so perfect, and his first mistake really was about me.
And Mrs. Reagan, a fierce advocate for stem cell research, which she believes can help Alzheimer's sufferers like her husband, was not invited when President Obama reversed George Bush's partial ban on stem cell research last March. But today, President Obama thanked her for being extraordinarily gracious to him and Michelle. And the new First Lady, who many say has Nancy Reagan style, will have the former First Lady over for lunch tomorrow. This after Mrs. Reagan helps unveil a statue of Ronald Reagan at the Capitol. Quite a moment today.
Quite a moment. Glad we were both here for all of it. Andrea Mitchell here with us in the East Room. We'll take a break. We're back with one last word on what we'll be seeing from here later tonight. We're back, and we're looking forward to joining you from the South Portico of the White House later tonight for part 1 of our special Inside the Obama White House. It is 2 hours of television spread over 2 nights, beginning at 9, 8 Central. That's tonight on this NBC station. We are confident it's the most that's ever been shown of the inner workings of the West Wing. In fact, at 32 cameras, we had so many people at work covering so many angles and so many other people, we actually printed up and handed out these Facebooks so that all of our folks would know every face in the West Wing and no one would go unrecognized. Earlier, we conducted our second formal interview with the president in just the space of the last 5 days. We have a special section of our website set up, whitehouse.msnbc.com. It includes exclusive, never-before-seen video. You can see all of our day at the White House, the president, the first lady, and yes, the new dog Bo when we see you later tonight. For now, that is our broadcast for this Tuesday night. Thank you for being with us. I'm Brian Williams. We'll look for you later this evening from the White House. Good night.